10 minutes early.
Remember, don't say nothing about any of what Willard just said.
Oh, I'm live, so yeah.
Did you hear me? Okay. Well, don't look at me like that.
Yeah, anyway. Give it a couple minutes for people to come in. Hey, Lily. Oh, man. What a day, what a day. Thank you, Lily, for letting me know you could hear me and see me. I'm just going straight through the YouTube side and the Facebook side. It is what it is. The app, obviously, my live on Facebook is starting, but it's not done anything yet, so go ahead. Oh, the joys of internet. Plug this in. Alright. So I'm streaming YouTube Studio and Facebook, but for some reason my Facebook is not coming up right. Let me go on my phone and see what's going on. It shows I'm live. Alright. Anyways, spent some of the afternoon on the river. Well, at the river, I should say. Not on it because I don't have a boat, obviously. Didn't catch anything, unfortunately. Oh. Copper's over here chewing his ball. And I'm here for AA. So I want to talk real quick about my cousin who passed away a couple days ago. My family is still asking for donations to help pay for that. As y'all know, it's expensive, and let me see if I can go to his page and get this information. So I think it's right here anyway. I don't know. No. It's been a crazy few days. Anyways, you can donate to $ capital R lowercase EGNECK capital BRM, and that is for my cousin John to help fund his procession and all of the costs. It is expensive, as you all know, and so yeah. Anyway. It's hard to believe that he's gone at 50. Life throws you for a loop. That's for sure. Or loss of life throws you for a loop. Anyway. Normally it would start at 6, but I figured I'd start a little early today and ask for prayers for my family grieving the loss of their brother, their son, their cousin, their uncle, their dad, their grandpa. Definitely not been easy. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and say the Serenity Prayer and get into the meeting. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Hey, Mike.
So there's no judgment in a meeting. Don't harass anybody that's in the chats or leaving comments or anything like that. This is a safe space for people to come to listen to me read the book that we're reading and all of that stuff, and sharing my story on how I have managed to make it stick on my end of staying sober. I don't sugarcoat it because it's not easy. But anyways, just be kind in the chat. They may not be the alcoholic who needs help. They might just be here to listen, support my channel, and maybe help a family member that they know needs the help for their sobriety. Because you never know who's suffering out there. Anyways, I'm Sandra and I'm an alcoholic. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all the persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, only praying for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. We're trying to get through this today. I always put in the description what book we're reading, and we're reading the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book right now. And we are on step 3, page 34. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Practicing step 3 is like opening a door which to all appearances is still closed and locked. All we need is a key and the decision to swing the door open. There's only one key, and it's called willingness. Once unlocked by willingness, the door opens almost of itself. And looking through it, we shall see a pathway beside which is an inscription. It reads, "This is the way to a faith that works." In the first 2 steps, we were engaged in reflection. We saw that we were powerless over alcohol, but we also perceived that faith of some kind, if only in AA itself, is possible to anyone. These conclusions did not require action. They require only acceptance. Like all the remaining steps, step 3 calls for affirmative action, for it is only by action that we can cut away the self-will which has always blocked the entry of God, or, if you like, a higher power, into our lives. Faith, to be sure, is necessary, but faith alone can avail nothing. We can have faith, yet keep God out of our lives. Therefore, our problem now becomes just how and by what specific means shall we be able to let Him in. Step 3 represents our first attempt to do this. In fact, the effectiveness of the whole AA program will rest upon how well and earnestly we have tried to come to a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. To every worldly and practical-minded beginner, this step looks hard, even impossible, no matter how much one wishes to try. Exactly how can he turn his own will and his own life over to the care of whatever God he thinks there is? Fortunately, we who have tried it, and with equal misgivings, can testify that anyone at all, can begin to do it. We can further add that a beginning, even the smallest, is all that is needed. Once we have placed the key of willingness in the lock and have the door ever so slightly open, we find that we can always open it some more. Though self-will may slam it shut again, as it frequently does, it will always respond the amount we again pick up the key of willingness. Maybe this all sounds mysterious and remote, something like Einstein's theory of relativity, or a proposition in nuclear physics. It isn't at all. Let's look at how practical it actually is. Every man and woman who has joined AA and intends to stick has, without realizing it, made a beginning on step 3. Isn't it true that in all matters touching upon alcohol, each of them has decided to turn his or her life over the care, protection, and guidance of Alcoholics Anonymous? Already a willingness has been achieved to cast out one's own will and one's own ideas about the alcohol problem in favor of those suggested by AA. Any willing newcomer feels sure AA is the only safe harbor for the foundering vessels he has become. Now, if this is not turning one's will and life over to a newfound providence, then what is it? But suppose that insist still cries out, as it certainly will. Yes, respecting alcohol, I guess I have to be dependent upon AA, but in all other matters, I must still maintain my independence. Nothing is going to turn me into a non-90 or whatever, however you say that word. If I keep on turning my life and my will over to the care of something or somebody else, what will become of me? I'll look like the hole in the donut. This, of course, is a process by which instinct and logic always seek to bolster egotism, and some frustrate spiritual development. The trouble is that this kind of thinking takes no real account of the facts, and the facts seem to be these. The more we become willing to depend upon a higher power, the more independent we actually are. Therefore, dependence, as AA practices it, is really a means of gaining true independence of the spirit. Let's examine for a moment this idea of independence at the level of everyday living. In this area, it is startling to discover how dependent we really are and how unconscious of that dependence. Every modern house has electric wiring carrying power and light to its interior. We are delighted with this dependence. Our main hope is that nothing will ever cut off the supply of current. By so accepting our dependence upon this marvel of science, we find ourselves more independent personally. Not only are we more independent, we are even more comfortable and secure. Power flows just where it is needed. Silently and surely, electricity, that strange energy so few people understand, meets our simplest daily needs. And our most desperate ones, too. Ask the polio sufferer confined to an iron lung who depends with complete trust upon a motor to keep the breath of life in him. But the moment our material or emotional independence is in question, how differently we behave, how persistently we claim the right to decide all by ourselves just what we shall think and just how we shall act. Oh, yes, we'll weigh the pros and cons of every problem. We'll listen politely to those who would advise us, but all the decisions are to be ours alone. Nobody is going to meddle with our personal independence in such matters. Besides, we think there is no one we can surely trust. We are certain that our intelligence, backed by willpower, can rightly control our inner lives and guarantee us success in the world we live in. This brave philosophy, wherein each man plays God, sounds good to the speaking, but it still has to meet the acid test. How well does it actually work? One good look in the mirror ought to be answer enough for any alcoholic. Should his own image in the mirror be too awful to contemplate, and it usually is, he might first take a look at the result normal people are getting from self-sufficiency everywhere he sees people filled with anger and fear, society breaking up into warring fragments. Each fragment says to the other, "We are right and you are wrong." Every such pressure group, if it is wrong enough, self-righteously imposes its will upon the rest. And everywhere the same thing is being done on an individual basis. The sum of all this mighty effort is less peace and less brotherhood than before. The philosophy of self-sufficiency is not paying off, plainly enough. It is a bone-crushing juggernaut whose finally achievement is ruin. Therefore, we who are alcoholics can consider ourselves fortunate indeed. Each of us has his own fear or own near fatal encounter with the juggernaut of self-will and has suffered enough under the weight to be willing to look for something better. So it is by circumstance rather than by any virtue that we have been driven to AA, have admitted defeat, have acquired the rudiments of faith, and now want to make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to a higher power. We realize that the word dependence is as distasteful to many psychiatrists and psychologists as it is to alcoholics. Like our professional friends, we too are aware that there are wrong forms of dependence. We have experienced many of them. No adult man or woman, for example, should be in too much emotional dependence upon a parent. They should have been weaned long before. And if they have not been, they should wake up to the fact. And I lost my spot. This very form of faulty dependence has caused many a rebellious alcoholic to conclude that dependence of any sort might be intolerable, damaging. But dependence upon an AA group or upon a higher power hasn't produced any baleful results. When World War II broke out, this spiritual principle had its first major test. AA entered the service and were scattered all over the world. Would they be able to take discipline, stand up under fire, and endure the monotony of misery of war? Would the kind of dependence they had learned in AA carry them through? Well, it did. They have they had even fewer alcoholic lapses or emotional binges than AA Safe at Home did. They were just as capable of endurance and valor as any other soldier, whether in Alaska or on the Salerno, I think that is, beachhead. Their dependence upon a higher power worked, and far from being a weakness, this dependence was their chief source of strength. So, how exactly can the willing person continue to turn his will and his life over to the higher power? He made a beginning, we have seen. When he commenced to rely upon AA for the solution of his alcohol problem, by now, through the chances are that he has become convinced that he has more problems than alcohol and that some of these refuse to be solved by all the sheer personal determination and courage he could muster. They simply will not budge. They make him desperately unhappy and threaten his newfound sobriety. Our friend is still victimized by remorse and guilt when he thinks of yesterday. Bitterness still overpowers him when he broods upon those he still envies or hates. His financial insecurity worries him sick, and panic takes over when he thinks of all the bridges to safety the alcohol burned behind him. And how shall he ever straighten out that awful jam that cost him the affection of his family and separate him from them? His lone courage and unaided will cannot do it. Surely he must now depend upon somebody or something else. At first, that somebody is likely to be his closest AA friend. He relies upon the assurance that his many troubles now made more acute because he cannot use alcohol to kill the pain can be solved too. Of course, the sponsor points out that our friend's life is still unmanageable, even though he is sober. That after all, only a fair start on AA's program has been made. More sobriety brought about by the admission of alcoholism and by attendance at a few meetings is very good indeed, but it is bound to be a far cry from permanent sobriety and a contented, useful life. That is just where the remaining steps of the AA program come in. Nothing short of continuous action upon these as a way of life can bring the much desired result. Then it is explained that other steps of the AA program can be practiced with success only when step 3 is given a determined and persistent trial. This statement may surprise newcomers who have experienced nothing but constant deflation and a growing conviction that human will is of no value whatever. They have become persuaded, and rightly so, that many problems besides alcohol will not yield to a headlong assault powered by the individual one alone, I mean. But now it appears that there are certain things which only the individual can do, all by himself or herself. And in the light of his own circumstances, he needs to develop the quality of willingness. When he acquires willingness, he is the only one who can make the decision to exert himself. Trying to do this is an act of his own will. All of the 12 steps require sustained and personal exertion to conform to their principle, and so we trust to God's will. It is when we try to make our will conform with God's that we begin to use it rightly. To all of us, this was a most wonderful revelation. Our whole trouble had been the misuse of willpower. We had tried to bombard our problems with it instead of attempting to bring it into agreement with God's intention for us. To make this increasingly possible is the purpose of AA's 12 steps, and step 3 opens the door. Once we have come into agreement with these ideas, it is really easy to begin the practice of step 3. In all times of emotional disturbance and indecision, we can pause, ask for quiet, and in the stillness simply say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Step 3 is, it takes me to those people that I know who still suffer, that are going through a hard time right now. Those who are sober that are going through a hard time right now. It gets easier to deal with your feelings and your emotions and living life on life terms. It's not easy losing a family member. That's why I'm here doing a meeting at 6 o'clock on a Sunday when I could have been fishing. I came home to do a meeting. Having the loss of family is hard. dealing with those emotions on a real basis without going to your used to be go to for everything. And I say it from experience because, you know, it does get easier. It is bearable. I fall apart when I'm by myself. But I can still be by myself and know that I'm not going back out to drink. I have that willpower over myself. I took that on myself. Nobody can tell me I have to be sober. I can go out and buy alcohol right now if I wanted to. I don't. And that's because it gets easier with time. Time doesn't heal everything. But the longer you stay in your sobriety, the easier it gets to stay sober. To say, no, I'm not going. I'm not that person back there. I'm right here in today. Because the more you go backwards, the farther back you're going to go, and you're going to end up right back out there where you just came from. I was a newcomer. I really don't consider myself an old timer because I'm right in the middle. I don't have my ducks in a row. I probably never will. But I have to be okay with that. I have to learn to accept life as it is. Go with it. It'll get easier to handle all the hurt that you feel when someone is taken away, when someone you love, you see them struggling with the same thing that you had. I'm not naming anybody. I have family members that are still alcoholics. I have family members that will tell you no, they're not. And I said I wasn't. For a long time, I said I wasn't. And I have been my whole life. Who would have thought that, right? Should his own image in the mirror be too awful to contemplate? And it usually is. He might first take a look at the result normal people are getting from self-sufficiency. Everywhere he sees people filled with anger and fear, society breaking up into warning fragments. Each fragment says to the other, we are right and you are wrong. Every such pressure group, if it is strong enough, self-righteously, suppose its will upon the rest.
Hey, Mike.
I have my family, I have great friends. I have almost all of my family. There's some that don't want nothing to do with me, and you know what? That's okay. That's fine. I don't mind. Because I'm not going to throw myself into a crazy backward spin to be able to go where I'm not welcome or that I don't feel comfortable or don't feel safe. And that's my sobriety. And I might need to call my sponsor, I might need to text my sponsor, and I do that as I need. And I don't hold any punches because I'm like, hey, I really need to talk to you about this. And that's what your sponsor is for. I've had a sponsor since the second meeting I went to. And yes, I've had more than one. I've had two. One that has always told me to read my books and watch what, read this page and that page and check this out and check that out. Do not be doing that because, it's not going to make them want to come to a meeting. And I have pushed the bar. I pushed it at my sister. Like, hey, you need to come to AA. You need to come now. My sponsor's like, that's not going to work. And she was right. It didn't work. Then I stopped bugging my sister. And she came. I was so grateful for that day because I really wanted my sister to be next to me on the sobriety train, going through every day with me on the crazy and the fun and the terrifying and all of it. I've been through so many different things. I quit drinking, I quit smoking, I quit drinking soda. Except for within the last few days, I've been drinking more and more. So I need to get back on that and cutting that out too. But I have used my sobriety and my steps to help me remember why I quit those things. I quit drinking alcohol because it made me an asshole and I didn't like it. And I don't care if YouTube flashes my freaking language, that's fine. Because it's the truth. This is my journey and my journey alone that I can share. That I've chosen to share. If people want to make fun of me and say bad things, whatever, that's on you, dude. It's not going to bother me any. I'm going to keep going. I'm on here for long haul. And there ain't going to be nothing that breaks me down except for me. And I'm not doing that ever. I've done that once and I won't do it again. But any prayers you guys can send to my family, yes, even the ones that I don't speak to, because they need to realize that I'm still blood. I still care. And I'm there. I may not physically be there, but my mind is there. My heart is there. I tried to make my amends to him before he went. Half cup, 1/3, and 1 cup. Then we have. Anyway. Teaspoon, half teaspoon, quarter teaspoon. We don't need any of those. No. Okay. You need to put in like a container or see what mom wants to do. Get yourself the Daily Reflections app. It's wonderful. I love it. We were missing mom. I found it in the trunk of the car. Yes. Freedom to be me. If we are painstakingly about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 83. My first true freedom is the freedom not to have to take a drink today. If I truly want it, I will work the 12 steps. And the happiness of this freedom will come to me through the steps. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, other freedoms will follow, and in inventorying them is a new happiness. I had a new freedom today, the freedom to be me. I have the freedom to be the best me I have ever been.
That red one used to be our kitchen one. We're in here. We're in the kitchen. It used to be our house one. These need to be washed.
Anyway, thank you guys for being here and being support for my channel and to my sobriety, to your journey. I wish everybody well. And
what we need to do then now is there a little box somewhere around here? Or better yet, we'll just do this.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I love you guys. Be safe out there. And remember, you're not alone. I have to get out of here.
We'll put these over here on this shelf for right now.
Watch the replay. Love you, Tar.